Jar of Flies is considered to be one of the best albums of the grunge era and one of the most haunting albums ever made. At the time of Jar of Flies' production, the band was at the time homeless as a result of not paying their rent on time right after the 1993 Lollapalooza tour had concluded. The band also saw the departure of Mike Starr in replacement with Mike Inez, who would make his studio debut on the Jar of Flies album. However, the person who was the center of attention was Layne Staley, frontman of Alice in Chains. Staley's addiction to heroin had taken over his life and began to dramatically affect him physically as much as it did emotionally. In 1992, he and Demery Parrott, an American model, artist, poet, fashion designer, and muse, were engaged. The two had met back in 1988 at a store named Saddest where she worked at, and the two were described as being inseparable and soulmates. Problems stemming from both of their addictions began to destroy what was, at the beginning, a beautiful relationship. His addiction also affected the band as they were struggling to stay consistent on their touring schedule and made it difficult to practice. As a result of being evicted, they moved into London Bridge Studios, a studio in Shoreline, Washington, primarily known for recording rock, grunge, and post-grunge. They went into it without any material previously written. They came up with it as they got into the zone, and this was the only album produced by them and them alone. While the entire album consists of dark, introspective thoughts and concepts, Nutshell is the darkest, as it's about Staley's own experiences and his perspective in life, exploring feelings of loneliness, depression, the lack of privacy due to being a celebrity, and potential suicidal ideation. Without a shadow of a doubt, these are the darkest lyrics Staley ever wrote. We chase misprinted lies, we face the path of time, and yet I fight, this battle all alone. No one to cry to, no place to call home. Despite being one of the most popular people in all of rock, and being around tons of people, he feels like he's all alone to deal with his issues, and feels like no one cares, and no one even remotely even glimpses at him outside of just Layne Staley the rock star. That sense of loneliness is expanded on by the slow, melancholic acoustic guitar with the bass underlying, which creates this nice but very solemn and isolating feeling underneath. My gift of self is my privacy is raked, and yet I find, repeating in my head, if I can't be on my own, I'd feel better dead. The saddest and most profound part of this song is on full display. A man who wants to be left alone, but when he's left alone, he can't deal with the reality of the warping thoughts within his own mind as it starts to swarm and become too much. But if he can't be a man on his own and achieve that inner peace he seeks, then he'd rather be dead. These words would become even more tragic just a few short years later. One of the band's most iconic performances is the 1996 MTV Unplugged sessions, which held some of the best performances of alternative rock from the 90s. Staley, meanwhile, looked completely different, much skinnier and seemingly missing some teeth. But he still went on to give one of the most haunting performances of his era. This would be one of his last performances he would ever perform with the band live. Tragically, a few months later, his former ex-girlfriend and fiancée, Demery Murphy, passed away due to an accidental drug overdose. According to a report from around that time, Staley was so distraught that he was placed on self-deletion watch. Even though their relationship wasn't the best towards its end, he never wanted anything bad for her. Hearing that news tore him apart, and he was never the same after that. After recording some material with the band in 1998 for the box set called Music Bank, which was released in 1999, he completely isolated himself and became a complete recluse.
Hi, welcome to CNN Headline News. I'm Anna Hovind. The lead singer of the rock band Alice in Chains has been found dead in his Seattle home. The partially decomposed body of 34-year-old Lane Staley was discovered Friday night. Medical examiners identified it during an autopsy Saturday. Authorities have not yet released the cause of death. Seattle police say there were no signs of foul play and there was nothing.
On April 5th, 2002, Staley would tragically pass away as a result of a drug overdose, brought on by a mixture of heroin and cocaine. However, his body would not be found until 2 weeks later when a wellness check was done, as he had not made a single transaction from his bank account in over 2 weeks. He was only 34 years old. Nutshell is the tale of a man struggling against his personal demons, and while there was a sliver of hope that one day he may make it out, the straw that broke the camel's back was that the one person he loved the most had been taken away from him by the very thing he was fighting the entire time. This is the man stuck in a nutshell. This is the tragedy of the life of Lane Staley.